Yo, how you doing? How you doing? Today we are talking about everything I watch in January. Oh, Chicago. If you want my gravy. I'm going through all the Best Picture winner right now for a video. Let me tell you that I cannot believe that Chicago won Best Film. Pepper my ragu. Worst lyrics ever written. The lighting in this film, desaturated, harsh lighting. I understand that they wanted to go for that theater look. It really looked ugly. I mean, when you talk about unlikable character, like I'm supposed to root for her to want to get out of jail, even though she did kill a man because she want to be a star. Am I supposed to want them to get out of jail? I could not get into this. This is a 1 out of 5. Truly, truly terrible. Then I rewatched Spotlight, one of my favorite film of all time. Such a great film, and Mark Ruffalo in that. Just great. That speech?
They knew, and they let it happen.
Gets me every time. That's one of my favorite of all time. It's a 5 out of 5. Next one. I already did a video about this. It's Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Go check it out if you haven't checked it out yet. The next thing I checked out is the documentary Django Django, Sergio Corbucci. This is a really neat little documentary with Quentin Tarantino talking about Italian Western, about the influence of those films. It gave me kind of like a few films I wanted to check out. I gave it a 3 out of 5. The next thing I watched is Everything Everywhere All at Once. And this is actually my first watch. When this movie came out last year, a lot of people were really hype about it. To me, it looked like a Marvel movie. Too much, too busy. Sometimes people get super excited for Marvel film because it's more of a spectacle than a good film, and that's definitely not something that I'm super interested in. I really got into this mode where I will not watch it. Finally, we were like, we'll just watch it. It is a lot, and I think the first hour is flawed. They do like plant a lot of seeds, little ideas, little joke that will pay off in the second half of the film. But I think that as an experience, watching it for the first time, that first hour is a lot. The second half of this film do a lot of the heavy lifting. A lot of things get tied up in a very nice way. It's a bit too much, like the bagel stuff. It's less my thing. I do get though why some people, that's their favorite film. It's just not for me. Give it a 4 out of 5. I do want to rewatch it. I think it's obviously one of those films that have so much happening. There's a lot of things that will require more viewing. Kind of looking back at my best movie of 2022, I think it does have a spot. It won't be one of my favorites of all time. It's a good watch, but I think that's where my passion for it ends. Next thing I watch is Dungeon and Dragon. I really like the humor. I really like what they did with the material. I'm not a big Dungeon and Dragon fan. Played once when I was 14. I like the way they approach the subject because while there's a lot of fan of the game, you need to make it a little bit more broad, a little bit more general audience, knowing that most people go in and wouldn't have all the information to kind of piece together a film that would be super to the game. So I really like the approach. I think most of the joke work really well. Some of the action is really good. It is a bit cartoony. It's a bit silly and perfect type of film to throw on in the background. So the next one I watch is Her. Very, very interesting watch. I haven't seen it since the year it came out. Obviously, this is a movie that have a lot of high concept technology, at least for the time. AI, virtual reality, and all those things are explored in 2013. All those idea seems very foreign, but rewatching this now that those concepts are either reality and widely accessible or not that weird to think that this would be coming very soon. Looking at this film now, I think I actually liked it even more. It's really just a simple love story, the most basic love story that you can have. Two entity, regardless of who they actually are, falling in love and starting to slowly drift apart. The most simple story you can have. But under the veil of technology, this makes it a very interesting and different film. I think this film works better and better. It's a great film. I give it a 4.5 out of 5. Next thing I watch is The Tragedy of Macbeth. The adaptation they did is really cool. You still feel like you're watching a play. And I think one thing that was the most interesting is, yes, the visual is very impressive, but the sound design is very, very haunting and very special. That's one of my favorite parts of the film. It was a great choice, knowing that the language can be a bit harder to get into. I think it was probably one of the best visual film of 2021. Really, really like that. Definitely could go up to a 4 in the future. Next one I watch is It Happened One Night. Best Picture winner from 1934. This is basically the most typical romantic comedy. The daughter of a very rich man, and she's marrying a man that he doesn't like. She run away and she has to get to New York from like Florida. She end up taking a bus and this guy, this journalist, and it's the most typical thing where slowly they end up spending a lot of time together. For 1934, it's pretty funny. I think some of the sound, especially she has a very high-pitched voice. 2 days, like all the film, like all those romantic comedy of like two people traveling together and falling in love, basically still doing everything this film did. It's a sweet film. It's a 3 out of 5. Ooh, okay, next one. 2003, Goodbye Dragon Inn. Very patient and intimate love letter to cinema. Basically almost no line of dialogue for the entirety of the film. I think like 4 or 5 max. The first line of dialogue is like 45 minutes in. You follow some of the employee cleaning up, tending to the place. Beautiful visually. It's really interesting. It's grainy, it's nostalgic, wet, rainy scenes, very funny and relatable, really well executed, very beautiful. 4 out of 5. The next one I watch is the 1954 Alfred Hitchcock Dial M for Murder. Grace Kelly in there, amazing. Ray Milland, I've seen a few of his film. Great thriller. Takes all place in one room. Having a director like Hitchcock that can navigate those restrictions is very interesting. Similar to The Rope, which also is all in one location. I would say I prefer Dial M for Murder over The Rope. I will give a 3.5 out of 5 for this one. All right, we're almost halfway through the month. And the next one I watch is John Wick. I remember liking it enough, but even back then I didn't love it. The music choices are very hard to get around. You almost feel like Linkin Park is about to come in. Overall, it's a good film. It's not amazing to me. I know like people love it. I think I've never seen 3 and 4 and I want to watch them. That's why I rewatched the first one. For me, it's a 3 out of 5. Next 3 films are all Edgar Wright film. Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I used to freaking love this film when it came out in 2010. It's getting a bit repetitive towards the end. I would say past the vegan fight, like the vegan ex-boyfriend, I was getting a bit tired. The first hour of this film is like impeccable. I lowered the score to a 3.5 instead of a 4. Made me want to watch Baby Driver. This is my first watch. The use of music is like one of the best. If you want to go for like super heavy needle drop in a film, this is the way to do it. Intertwine in the story. It's not just there to put over just to create excitement or like create rhythm. It's a 4 out of 5. The last Edgar Wright film I checked is Last Night in Soho. After like 30 minutes, I was like, I don't see why people don't like this. Like it's pretty good. Some of the choices, and also I felt like the color palette was very tame for like Edgar Wright. I was into it, and then the horror aspect kind of kick in, and it's so cheesy and silly. I personally saw the ending coming right away. It felt so obvious what the ending would be that as soon as those character got introduced, I was like, oh, okay, so we're gonna address this very quickly because it felt so obvious. No, they kept this as the biggest twist of the film. The ghost aspect felt super silly and cheesy, but at the same time it felt from like the color palette and like the mental health kind of like layer that the film wanted to be taken seriously. To me, like it was really confused in tone. I was like, am I supposed to laugh or the movie want me to be actually scared? I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5 because I think the first 30 minutes are solid. The next one I watch is Project Iceman, documentary about a guy that wanted to be the first to complete an Ironman in Antarctica. Cool achievement. Spoiler, he did it, right? My big problem is this guy has a very normal life, but obviously they want you to feel for him, and I guess they want you to feel like the odds are against him. So they're trying to build this narrative. The doc start with the most silly attempt, the most forced attempt at creating drama I've ever seen. Image of his childhood, like childhood pictures, and they interviewing his family. And I think his mom say something like, he always wore a cap. He wore a cap as long as I remember. He wore a cap, a baseball cap, and you know it was his personality, and he loved his cap. And one day he went to school, and they took off his cap, and then like the music go, and then his sister was like, it's like he was someone else. It's like they stole is Shine. I didn't know if we would connect anymore, and I feel like he grew apart. You tell me that this guy couldn't wear a cap. His whole personality changed because of that. It's just silly. It's like there's nothing wrong with having a happy childhood and wanting to just do something amazing like an Iron Man in Antarctica. The fact that the school removed his cap, it stole his identity. Come on. Achievement, cool. 5 out of 5 achievement. Doc, like it's like a 2.5. It's not great. Awesome. The next thing I watch is The Man Who Knew Too Much. I'm mentioning this one because this is an Alfred Hitchcock film. He actually remade this film. So there's 2 versions. There's one from the 50s and one from the 30s. And look, it's not great. There's some great little flash of good stuff in there. And if you're a Hitchcock fan, you're gonna enjoy watching it because you can see him starting to put things together. But realistically, it's not a great film. You know, this is one of those that will get like 3.5 average rating on Letterboxd. I think people are giving it that extra kind of like 0.5 or extra 1 because it's Hitchcock. Like there's some cool stuff. Peter Lorre is really good, and the orchestra scene is really interesting, and the finale with the mother is really good. The scene in the church where they're throwing chair at each other and chair just explode. Oh, we don't want to fire a gun because it will alert the police. Let's throw chair at each other for like 10 minutes. It was just an odd scene. It's kind of one of those. Yeah, that's it. Awesome. Next one I watch is American Fiction. We have a podcast, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. But overall, I think it's not one of my favorites of this year. It's fine. It's good. Next thing I watch is Russian Ark. I only watched this because this year I'm trying to close the Letterboxd map. On Letterboxd, you get a map of the world. You can see where the film you're watching are from. One thing that I've seen online is that people try to close the map, and that's super interesting. And one of the film that I watch is Russian Ark to get Russia, and it's great. It's amazing. So it's one of those one-shot film, but it's a true one-shot film. So they actually did the entire 90 minutes run in a single shot. There's some, weird post-production kind of artificial framing that they do, I assume, to cut an extra that was not in the right spot, or a cable, like something that is, not supposed to be in the film. But overall, what a great film. Even if you take out the technical aspect of doing a one-shot film, I just loved it. Like, it really gripped me. I give it a 4.5, and it's rare that I give such a high score on a first watch, but this one is just impeccable. Okay, next one. This one I might have to do a video on, and it's Nyad. I watched this because Annette Bening and Jodie Foster got nominated, for their performance, and this is a bad, terrible, this is puzzling me. There's too much to talk about. I'm gonna make a video about this. It leaves me speechless, and that complete everything I watch in January. Thank you for watching. If you haven't watched the podcast, check out, we just released our American Fiction and the Iron Claw episode. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, everywhere, and we'll see you in the next one.